welcome into Bucket Bros. I'm Ronnie West. That is Bobby Marcico. We are here to dribble some knowledge into your brain, and hopefully we can give you some confident stuff like a solid chest pass, and we won't blow smoke in your ear like Lance Stevenson. So I hope everybody is having a great day. The quarterfinals are done today. It is Wednesday. We're recording this. We've watched all 4 games for you yesterday, so you don't have to. But Bobby, welcome in. How have you been? What were your thoughts on the basketball day yesterday?
Oh, it was one of the best days of my life. All I did was hang out with my son, watch basketball, walk the dog. I think I even got some exercise in there. It was great. I made some fried fish and it turned out perfect. One of the
Nice.
best fish and chips I've ever had. Yeah.
No, you're telling me we were multitasking yesterday. I had also had the son here. We went and got his first library card, and we got some books to read. And yeah, we went to the store. And so, yeah, it's been busy doing a lot of different stuff as well as working and creating websites and doing all that fun stuff. So, yeah, but yeah, having on the games in the background is obviously it's one of those things. We don't get it all the time, not with this Olympic team, or this Olympic tournament. So it's definitely been fun to watch. Before we get into any of the quarterfinal games, I do have a random question that I did not prep you for. So I wanted to know, did you watch any of the 3-on-3 tournament?
Briefly.
Oh, you did? More than me.
I will leave it at that. I will leave it at that. I think it was before we recorded our last episode, which I was working a lot of night shifts. I'm sure it shows, but um, I there was a we had a slow moment. There was a TV on in the background, and so I took some time to watch the 3-on-3. Not bad, not bad. I mean, um, it's definitely an older flavor of basketball. The from what I know about it, the 3-on-3, in order to actually even qualify to play for it, you have to have some 3-on-3 experience leading up to it. You have to have accumulated a certain amount of hours. I don't know what the exact parameters are, but that's why we're not throwing our, you know, 13th through 20th, remaining best American players I just made up numbers. That's probably like 8 guys. But that's why we're not throwing like the guys who didn't quite make the Olympic cut at the 3-on-3 tournament. And what Jimmer Fredette, is that our was that our
That's
that
the
was our
only
headliner?
USA name that I recognized. And it was funny because I was surprised because on the women's side, I think it's Kelsey Plum won a gold in the last Olympics in the 3-on-3 tournament. So that's why I wasn't sure. And obviously for there to be in a Olympic medal, that sport has to be competed in like a certain amount of countries. So that's why I'm kind of excited. I don't know if you saw this week, flag football is announced for the 2028 games in LA. So maybe we need to sign up for that and start getting out there, and maybe that'll be our Olympic pursuit and
Boy,
dream.
eventually they're going to expand the list of Olympic sports wide enough that you and I might actually be able to compete.
Yeah, hacky sack.
Yeah, yeah. When is
So
cornhole gonna become an Olympic
that one,
sport?
I bet you that one will be in sooner than later.
Yeah, yeah. Although
It's
I've seen only a small amount of clips of professional cornhole players, but enough to realize that there actually is an upper echelon
it's a
that's
competition
tough
to
to
me,
compete
and
with.
no slight to anyone, but to me, there's plenty of events where it's like it doesn't take athletic ability. No shade on the equestrian or rhythmic gymnastics or some of these or the trampoline. Like there's some stuff. It's like yes, there's some skill involved, and you need to have that type of thing going. But to me, it doesn't. It's like a Fernando Valenzuela, if you even know who that is. Can be an athlete more or less. So, but again, this comes back to 3-on-3. I'm just seeing. So, congrats to Germany and the Netherlands for winning the gold in the 3-on-3 for the men's and women's. Just because I'm looking at it right now. But yeah, let's get into the quarterfinal games. The first one that I was a little disappointed that got spoiled because I hadn't watched it yet because the Serbia game was the first one I managed to turn on. But Greece, Germany was chronologically the first game. I'll let you start. What were some of your thoughts as far as Giannis and the Greek team versus the precision German national team?
Well, I mean, Giannis, he did not go down without a fight. He continued his dominance, during the Olympics. He had, I believe, overall, was it 25 points in this game? I'm getting my box score pulled up. Sorry, folks. 22 points, sorry, on 64% shooting. And overall on the tournament, as Greece exits, he averaged 25.8 points a game, 67.8 from the field, 73% on twos. Um, I mean, the Greeks came out really strong. They opened up a big lead early on, looking like maybe they were going to be the first upset of the day. Um, but Germany took a breather, got in their bag. Um, and then showed us why they're one of the most dominant teams in the league and chipped away uh, at that lead, and eventually came out with the win. But you know, early on in the game, Giannis had 8 points strong in the first to help open up an 18-6 lead. And then, throughout the game, I want to give a couple of shout outs to Isaac Bonga. We're kind of switching gears here to the other side, but Isaac Bonga, he has been a spectacular player for the French here. He is this 3-and-D guy. He went 3 for 6 from three, and that was his shot total for the game, 9 points. But he's averaging 10 and 4. He's 6'8", a lot of length, young guy, he's only 25 years old, um, looking like a stud out there. But yeah, I mean, Germany, no surprise, was able to pull this one off. They're getting another shout out, tons of energy from Mo Wagner. He maybe the box score doesn't look pretty for him, but he's doing a little bit of everything. He's guarding the toughest guys. He looks like a brick wall out there. He's snatching down important rebounds, especially late in the game. Um, we yeah, I got a little nervous for Germany there, but uh, they were just doing what they do best. Franz ended up leading the way. He finished. Sorry, guys. Franz ended up leading the way. He finished with 18 points. Not a super efficient game from him, but overall, not bad. His 3-point struggles still continue. Um, yeah, yeah, great, fun game to watch overall for both sides. But sorry, sorry, Greece. The Hellas, should I say? They are Hellas eliminated.
Yeah, and so is my gold medal, or not my gold medal, geez, my bronze medal pick. So, yeah, it was. I had the same thing watching that. I got very excited, thinking, "Oh, I might have a chance to get one of these predictions correct." Yeah, I had the same thing. Actually, 21-9, I think, ended the first quarter. Greece had a lot of fast breaks. They were moving. I had some of the same notes about Bonga hitting the threes. I would say I did redeem myself. Did see Theonis was in a walking boot at the end of the bench for Greece, so that's probably why he didn't have a jersey on. So at least that kind of answered the question that I had in my head. But yeah, I think Thies and Schroeder, they're the engine. I think that run the team. Obviously, the Wagner brothers are key. Moritz was shooting from all over the place, but like I just think the grittiness of Thies, like his ability to get in there and fight and to be able to hit those open shots when he gets them, has been good. It was 36 all at halftime. Greece was shooting 54% in the first half, and Germany was 45. Obviously, that kind of switched over, but Greece's hot shooting continued through the third. Um, Giannis got in the foul trouble, and I think that kind of started the trend of the momentum kind of shifting when it seemed like it was going back and forth. It was pretty close. I think I have here near the end of the third, it was 57-52 Germany. So the game was still close. But then once the fourth hit, I noticed Greece was making a lot more mistakes. And I have written down here, it was a slow death. I think you could see it happening. Like Giannis was like not slowing down, but you could tell he was concerned about the foul trouble and just wasn't pushing enough and probably had a little bit of fatigue from playing so many minutes since Greece needed him on his floor as much as possible.
Yeah, I
I
played
had
the
here,
3 minutes of
yeah,
this game.
Franz Wagner took over the fourth. Greece missed 8 straight threes to kind of that kind of went with that slow death. Like you just run down shooting, and then Germany gets the rebound, and then that lead just slowly built up. Yeah, Greece only had 7 points in that fourth quarter with 1:17 left, and I was like, that's not good. Like that's how your team dies. And then the Schroeder deep three, that was the finisher. And Germany,
That was
to me,
nuts. That was nuts. It was a Hail Mary. And it
yeah,
looked the way he released it was that was a Hail Mary shot,
yeah,
but nothing but the bottom of the net. And it's definitely one of those moments where you string together not just a good team, but enough lucky moments like that, and that's sort of one of the most important ingredients for a recipe for winning.
yeah. So yeah, Germany looks solid. They ended up winning 76-63 was the final score. They move on to the semifinals now, and I think they should reach the gold medal game. I don't want to get ahead of myself before the other games, but to me, it's Germany looks like the clear second best team. Like I think you said that last time. I was a little hesitant just because I hadn't seen enough, but I think now
Mhm.
it's
Hey, I've been saying it since the exhibitions.
no, it's true. It's
Um,
true.
I
So
mean, I think in part just because I watched some of their dominance during their FIBA run, but yeah, I mean, and they have that continuity, so a lot of that is just carrying over. I mean, Germany, ever so slightly edged Greece on the 3-point game, the free throw game, the turnover game. It was just enough. It was just enough with them being, in my opinion, the better team. But they won the math game as well. It wasn't quite the performance that we would expected from them. I mean, only low scoring game, 76-63. Um, certainly that the hot shooting that you were seeing early on, I mean, that could be the difference between one of these bigger teams getting knocked out. An off day for one team and a blazing hot game for another could lead to these upsets.
that's
But
what makes this tournament so exciting, that it's the one and done. It's like the NCAA tournament. It's not the 7-game series to actually determine who's the best team. It's who's going to have the best game this night. Like who's going to bring it. And that's, to me, that's what makes that exciting and wanting more of this. But obviously we're going to have to wait 4 years and a month probably until that happens. So
yeah, yeah, probably not Germany's favorite performance, but they were able to grit it out, and I mean
and
they
still win by
even.
13.
Yeah, no, they have to feel pretty good about this one because they know that they had a better night offensively. Obviously, their defense held up for them in the end, which is probably one of the hallmarks of this team. I do wish I had a better nickname for them, perhaps something less politically charged than the Berlin Wall. There's got to be something. There's got to be something we could call that. That's a little less controversial. But I mean, they really make it tough for teams to get inside and score in the paint. Their team defense is absolutely spectacular, and I think that's what ended up running this one out for them.
So then that moves us to the second game, which history was made. We have Serbia and Australia. And this, I think, was, I want to say, probably my favorite game to watch just because it was the most exciting. It went to overtime before we get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, this was by far the the gold gem of the quarterfinal games. Uh, just like Greece, Australia came out on fire. Uh, Specifically, Patty Mills. And I think it was Noah Eagle was saying it during the telecast, or actually, it might have been Robbie Hummel. I don't remember which one that does the games. Actually, no, it was Robbie Hummel because it was the first two. Um, when he puts on that Australia uniform, he's a different player. Just like Schroeder when he puts on that German uniform.
They're
It's
drinking
like
the same special stuff. Yeah, yeah, they're drinking from the same well. I don't know where it is, but I'll buy some of that.
I can tell you where it is because I experienced it, and it's the only time that I get it, because if you're on an NBA team, like you're not the star. I was a church league all-star in one tournament way back in the day. And if anybody knows, especially my three buddies that are probably watching this, I think I had 6 total varsity points in my career, and I probably averaged 4 points a game through my whole high school career and whatever rec league. But in that one church league tournament, I think I averaged 32 points a game. I topped out at like 36. I just it was my team, and I felt so in control. Everybody kind of deferred to me, and I think that's exactly what those two are feeling when they're playing. It's their team. Like, no one's going to tell them what to do. They've probably been there longer than the coach has been. Like, and those other guys have, because they're essentially were the first like NBA stars for those countries. And maybe Germany had some other ones in the 90s. I don't remember. That left Shrimp. I can't remember. He was probably the Yugoslavian bloc and whatnot. But
I mean
like
that tall guy named Dirk, he was pretty good too.
that guy, that's right. Yeah. So I just think like their exposure and their ability to kind of just take the team over. And that might be something too. Like Dirk may have passed this team on. Like, I think that's another thing too, where neither of those guys have anybody to defer to. And I think that's the biggest part of that. Like, obviously Germany's loaded. Like, they've got a lot of stars, but they all defer to
As is
Schroeder.
Australia, yeah, as is Australia.
And them too. And they all kind of defer to Patty Mills because he's that court general. And they, Patty Mills especially, like, took that on, and man, did he go off. He had 20 points in the first half, and I actually drew like a fire emoji on my paper just of how hot Australia was. They were shooting 62% in the first half. They were 20 of 25 for field goals at one point in the 2nd quarter.
Yeah, but 6 minutes to go in the second, they were 20-25. That's how they started the game. At that point, it was 46-22 was the score.
Yeah, it was a 24-point lead, which would be their undoing. And I think I texted you when this happened. I've got it starred on my sheet. I noticed that momentum swing when they had a very bad call on Dante Exum that was unsportsmanlike. And I think the defender like went in and tipped his hand, and he went to go for the ball and hit the guy in the arm or ear or something like that. And they called it unsportsmanlike. And to me, if it's unsportsmanlike, it's like you're doing it with intent. And that's the thing. Like, there was no intent. That was a common foul. He was going for the ball, and they called this unsportsmanlike penalty foul. And it just, you could see it stop their flow. Like, they were the energy and the flow. Australia was the rhythm, like, all of a sudden was like halted and kind of put a little speed bump in it. And you had already knew kind of what happened. But it was one of those things that you could kind of see the snowball of like, like, this doesn't look good. This is a huge lead, but I don't know if this feels safe, because then after that, I think they had a couple bad shots and a couple turnovers. And then it just started kind of slowly, that lead kind of trimmed down. But obviously, if we all watch basketball, and it is a game of runs, and it's just it's just getting a hold of that wave of energy when you're feeling that momentum and seeing how long it takes you. So yeah, looks like I had Giddey here, had a good first half, 13 points. But yeah, it just seemed like the Serbian energy just kind of kicked up in the middle of that second quarter, and then they ended up getting trimming the lead to 54-42 by halftime. So yeah. What were you noticing as this was happening? I think did you kind of get that same sense that once that call, like, there was some sort of hiccup in the Australian game, even though they kind of still had some continuity, but you could see the Serbians saw the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly sucked the energy out a little bit. But I kind of felt like the change of the tides was coming. At first, Australia made Serbia look like an overrated team. But then things did start to settle. The score started to even a bit. I suppose that foul certainly represented a point in the game for a moment of change, but I think what ultimately ended up happening was Serbia started playing better team defense. They weren't allowing as many transition buckets. They weren't allowing. Uh, they were anticipating passes a lot better. They weren't allowing Australia to move the ball as well, and that was causing Australia to put up a lot of just nasty shots, forced jumpers from the mid range and beyond. They started to rely too heavily on the guys who were hot for them, both Patty Mills and let's not underestimate Josh Giddey, who did have a great game. He really did. He ended up finishing with 25 to Patty Mills 26 as well. Both of them on great shooting. Josh unfortunately filling up, or I should say, he was filling up the stat sheet, but unfortunately also filled it up with 7 turnovers. We'll get to that in a little bit because some of his turnovers were quite costly in crucial moments. He looked like he was maybe not necessarily in charge of the game. I know we were touching on Patty Mills. By the way, fifth all-time leading Olympic scorer, Patty Mills. More total points in the Olympic realm than even Kevin Durant, which is another thing we'll touch on later. But so yeah, not to be underestimated, this guy. Uh, but yeah. That said, Giddy looked like he was just running the floor, getting guys the looks that they wanted, and then that seemed to just sort of slowly come to a halt. And then when it did so, Serbia did what they do best. They got comfortable in their half court offense, and they Jokic kind of being the steady rock that he is was he was the one then getting guys open looks. He was doing all the little things to give him the edge, and he came huge for them down the stretch. I mean, you want to look at good Joker minutes, look at Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter in overtime. He was coming up with some very timely steals, two in overtime in particular. He had this one epic block on Giddy. It was sort of you know, talk about momentum changers. And then he had two big shots. Going back to the fourth quarter a little bit, he had two big shots. One was this little like turnaround hook from the baseline, and then in the other baseline in the following possession, he had this turnaround jumper, nothing but the bottom of the net um, to put him up. But yeah, quite the sequence of event from Joker in those last two periods there. Um, I will say, Bogdanovich also looking good out there. I mean, he looked slick with the ball in this game. He really did. I mean, he's not known for his ball handling or anything like that, but he was navigating the floor well with the ball, being very patient, getting to his spots, getting some very key mid-range jumpers. The ones in particular that tie the game, give him that early lead, or give him that lead in the third when they finally clawed their way back. So, overall, it was a team effort. I would say no. There was more than one individual for Serbia that stood out. Um, their shooting definitely got better down the stretch, but yeah, they showed us why they are in fact the better team. Kind of a theme of yesterday is the sort of the underdog team coming out really strong, and then the Goliath team having to claw their way back. Um, and just like Germany, in this case, Serbia was able to pull out a win. Gave us a little extra basketball, and it was fun. But I agree with you; it was by far the most exciting game yesterday.
So yeah, so it ended up. We'll kind of spin through it. Um, Serbia managed to come back. They end up going to overtime. Serbia dominates the overtime. Serbia wins 95-90. To me, I had mentioned before, and what kind of I got excited. I was kind of hoping. Obviously, I'm kind of rooting for the underdog just because it was. I felt like I just wanted to see a different matchup for the USA. It's like this is going to be the third time we see
Third
Serbia
time.
in 3 weeks. So I was kind of hoping like, hey, this is Australia upstart story. They won bronze at the last Olympics. It's like, hey, let's do this. I think in the last episode, I mentioned how I thought this was whoever between Giddy and Bogdanovich, whoever ends up kind of outscoring would kind of probably take it. And I think it was pretty close, kind of how they were going. Like you said, Giddy had 25, Bogdanovich had 17. But I think the key in the second half was the NBA's oldest rookie this coming year, Vasily Micic. He had 14 points. He hit some big threes in that third and fourth quarter, and kind of extended the lead when they finally grabbed it. Bogdanovic had hit some threes early in that third quarter to kind of cut that lead down from 12 down to 4. I had the one thing I had down here was Patty Mills thought that his hot shooting didn't extend into the second half. He started forcing a lot of plays. I got down here, Giddey and Mills had 0 points in the fourth quarter with 3:57 left. So yeah, that makes a big impact if your top 2 scorers aren't scoring. And then especially when the team you're playing is starting to extend this lead. So then you start getting desperate and start taking some bad shots, which I think probably leads to what you had mentioned before, kind of with Giddey kind of forcing some stuff. So I apologize if you're hearing the dinging in my ear. So yeah, Micic, if I'm saying it correct, I think he was probably the player of that game for the Serbian team. Yes, Jokic had a great game, but obviously Serbia needs more than Bogdanovic and Jokic to show up in order to win, especially against the U.S. You're going to need more than just Micic as well. You're going to need a couple other guys to kind of get some points going. So otherwise, if I don't completely slaughter these names, Jokic ended with 21, Bogdanovic 17, Micic had 14, Dobrik's had 11, Gudric had 11. So they had a lot. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double digits, and Petrushev had 9 as well. So they got a lot of scoring. Granted, yes, they had a few extra minutes with the overtime, but that was a complete game by Serbia to come back. I think, like you said, show that they were the better team, and managed to move on. And we'll face maybe the U.S. Brazil winner, which we will get to in a little bit. Any other thoughts on the Serbian game? Like I said, this was probably the best game of the tournament so far, and so we're hoping that we get a few more of those as the competition gets a little more intense.
Yeah, just to zone on Giddey, I mean, certainly he had a good game, but he definitely had 2 costly turnovers in crunch time in that game with inbound passes. The biggest one being in overtime, and then they he on their last shot attempt. I mean, granted, the layup that he attempted, even if it went in, wouldn't have really changed the outcome likely. But he appeared to tweak his ankle there and was limping off the court. So. Um, for all Bulls fans out there, hope Josh Giddey as well, our big off season acquisition. I mean, he certainly was looking like a stud out there in the first part of the game, but yeah, definitely needs to clean up um, clean up those big time moments, making too many mistakes out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there were any updates on his injury, because the way he walked off, like you had made a comment like that it didn't look good. And when I first saw it, I thought, okay, maybe that's just a rolled ankle. But the way he kind of didn't want to put any weight on it, that kind of made me worried that it might be one of my old friend, the old Achilles.
Yeah, it
So
didn't look to roll, but then again, they don't have they didn't have like 3 high def cameras zooming in on it after it happened. Like nobody talked about it, so who knows.
yeah, and there doesn't seem to be any reference. Appeared to twist his ankle, limped up the
I
court.
looked
It's
it
not.
up and I didn't see anything, so we'll see
Yeah,
if an injury
so
report comes out.
he didn't go to the ground, so I think at least that's hopeful. It's not, granted, Kobe towards Achilles and went to the free throw line, so everybody's pain threshold is different. I went and ate a Subway sandwich with you after mine, so and then went home. So yeah, everybody deals with pain differently and how we handle our injuries. So and then that leads us to probably the most surprising game, I think. But France and Canada was the third game of the day. And this one started very similar to the other ones. France, the underdog, got out to the early lead. Canada just looked off. They had a bunch of turnovers to start, or I should say not a bunch, but they had a few to get started. And I was surprised. I think it this game, again, with the way that my recording or viewing on YouTube TV, it started like in the second quarter. So I had to go and find some info on the first quarter, but I did see Murray and SGA on the court for a little bit, but it was very limited. And so I think, to me, that's probably the biggest question, was their roster decisions, as far as, or not roster, the rotation decisions that they were making. Just kind of I was questioning a lot of it through this whole tournament. And obviously that might be a little foreshadowing. The one big thing that I found very surprising, as being a Timberwolves fan, was that Rudy Gobert didn't start, didn't play the first quarter, and didn't get put in the game until like 7 minutes left in the second quarter. And I think that was probably one of the smartest moves by the French. It's obviously it's I sit here and I bag on the Canadian team for separating Murray and SGA, but then here I am applauding them separating Wembanyama and Gobert. So it might
Well,
be
in
a
one
little
situation, it
contradictory.
should be, yeah, well, in one situation, it should be what we would think is complementary players in a backcourt. You know, it's not like they're lacking that much size, and their skill set definitely overlaps enough that you think it would give them a decent amount of variety. But you know, with Wemby Gobert, I mean, you know, as much as we like to think of Wemby as like an oversized three, you know, just because of the stuff, some of the stuff that he can do with the ball, I mean, at the end of the day, they're both fives, and they're both going to play defense like fives, and even though they are both, you know, incredibly defensively versatile for their size, you know, there's plenty of MVP awards, even even though they're all Gobert's right now, plenty of MVP awards to go around between the two of them, and more to come, I'm sure. But yeah, that was a great move. Obviously that was a great move by France by starting with Wemby, with Gobert on the bench. Heck, it's something the Jazz wanted to do a few years back
Well,
when they were
even the
having all those
Timberwolves kind
playoff
of do that
woes.
with Cat and Gobert and Naz
Yeah,
Reid. So like
yeah,
he does play with other guys. I think, and obviously I said I was being contradictory, but I don't, because Gobert isn't your offensive like engine.
yeah.
He's a piece. He's your screen and roller. He's not the one holding the ball like SGA and Jamal. And so it's, to me, they just, you would think, and the commentator made the comment, the whoever was doing the game made the comment about how this team bought in and did 3 years of World Cup trying to like be together. But it didn't seem like they were obviously like cohesive. The first two games, yes. That third game in the group play, when it made it very close, and in this game, it just brought up so many questions of like, this doesn't look right, the way that how this is working, and it obviously ended up kind of costing them. But we'll get back to how this game laid out. I've got here a gritty Dylan Brooks defense and a lot of stuff. Obviously, I was way off about the Dylan Brooks game. I think he went like 1 for 8. Shea had a point. Or what I got here? Shea finally hits 9 straight points. I've got French energy. I think one of the big things was the free throw attempts. There were 25 French free throw attempts in the first half. That's a lot of F's to try to say. And I think Canada had like 5. And so there was a huge discrepancy of like the way that France was pushing that ball in. And it was LaShore had 10 rebounds in the first half, and the Canadian team had 8. So I think there was this, and that's the thing too. There were some of these other role players for the French stepped up. I've got LaShore and I'm going to mess this one. I'm glad I wrote it phonetically. Yavasela had a big game down low. Those two guys,
Yabusele, Yabusele. Shout out to Yabusele, the
yeah,
leading scorer for France at 22 points.
he had a huge game. Like I said, LaSure down low. And obviously, those are the names, like I mentioned before, where I was saying I didn't think they had enough shooting. And so it was cool to see those guys step up. Names that we don't know, showing like, hey, we're here. We're going to take on this essentially NBA team. And so to me, they obviously buoyed by the energy of the crowd being in Paris. So yeah, I have here, it was up and down play to start the second half. It seemed kind of sloppy. It was like fast breaking. But the Canadian defense did start waking up. They did. I didn't get the halftime score, but I have here Canada trimmed it in the third down to a 10-point game. They kept kind of chipping away slowly. SGA had some good looks, and they managed to get it down to a 5-point game. And France led the whole game, and that from start to finish. And it was a similar thing where once they kind of got to that 5-point, you could see like that was almost their peak. Like it was like, oh, we just can't get there. RJ Barrett was trying his best to kind of lead that team, which I think surprised me that he was the leading scorer for this Canadian team when you have Murray, when you have SGA. And to me, it's like RJ Barrett's he's kind of like the mellow of that Canadian team. And granted, as you said, we're going to get to Carmelo was the top male Olympic scorer for the U.S. So to me, it's a very similar kind of a breakdown. But yeah, the last thing I hear here is Fournier's bomb three, just like Schroeder's from just inside half court, was essentially the finishing blow.
That was the dagger.
Yeah, that ended Canada. I think I already erased. Let's see what the final score was. My computer is not moving fast enough either.
Yeah. 82 to 73. France took it 82 to 73.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Canada definitely made a good run to come back. You know, you thought that they were gonna pull a Germany and keep the run going. Certainly that loss didn't come without a fight from SGA, as you mentioned. You know, he definitely had a better first half than second half. But yeah, I mean, France just blew Canada out of the water on the free throw game overall. I mean, 42 attempts versus, sorry, they're not side by side, 25. You know, the hot shooting from France didn't necessarily continue. If you look at the overall threes, there were 9 of 28, I believe, and
it was their presence
9
inside.
of 28.
It was. I don't have the stats in front of me, but if you do, I'm curious if they have how many offensive rebounds do they have in that game? Because it was the dominance inside by those two, by LaShore, by Yavasela, if I'm saying however you say it. Those two were so energized down low, and we're just they managed. It was like every time I look up from my computer from working on something, it was their name being said because they were inside or they were the ones on the screen. It was just they came out and good on them because now they have a chance at a medal. And so that's, to me, that's awesome for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't even offensive. I mean, they actually lost the offensive rebound and the possession game altogether.
Wow.
You know, Canada threw up 66 shots versus France was 48. You know, they were just
more efficient.
They were just hitting them. Yeah, they were just. I mean, and not even to say that they were particularly efficient. Like they didn't hold out that efficiency that they had early on. Not that we would expect them to. But I mean, yeah, there was. I would say this. You know, even though Canada, you know, in the qualifying round, they won all three of their games, and going into the quarterfinal here, they get gifted with a matchup against France. I mean, say what you will about France, they certainly didn't look pretty get to this point. But I would say, you know, amongst all the teams that were undefeated going into this round, that's probably the least favorable matchup that you could have asked for. Maybe arguably Greece, just because Giannis, you know, similar situation. But yeah, that definitely wasn't much of a gift. So as much as I had Canada early, you know, obviously we both predicted Canada to come out of this game. You know, the French obviously nothing to bat an eye at. And I will say, you know, we kind of touched on Jamal Murray a little bit. He had quite the disappointing performance this Olympics. Not really sure what's going on there. I don't know if there is an injury he was recovering from that we just aren't hearing about.
I feel like he had what's funny is he played just like he did in the Timberwolves series. I feel like it was one of those, like, I expected more. And I think
Mhm.
that's probably Nuggets fans understand and will probably chime in, is that he's streaky, and he always just defers to just shoot. He wants to shoot his way out of it versus like trying to get closer and penetrate and do stuff. So I think it's a detriment to like his game as far as like the way he just kind of approaches it. It's
And
and
maybe some of his flaws are smoothed over by the two-man game that he gets to play with Jokic, just
yeah,
because it really brings the best out of both of them. I mean, in particular, the best out of the best
which
out of Murray.
to me it brings up a curious situation of how I Mike Malone. I can't remember. Is that who the Nuggets coach is? I can't remember what his name is. I was trying to be smooth
Uh,
and I can't think of what his name is. But it puts a lot of pressure on him in how does we were talking about Jokic and Russell, but how does now I want to focus on like Murray and Westbrook. How do these two kind of end up working together? Or is it end up kind of like this, the way the Canadian team is, that we're going to see and I think that's what we kind of talked in the first episode, was Russell would be kind of the second team engine. But
mhm.
what if you switch that? What if Russell starts and Murray is your, like, to me it from the way Murray has looked over the last series and this past tournament, I, I I'm curious to see what Westbrook can bring and can maybe shake up in that Nuggets locker room. To me, it kind of brings up a lot of stuff of like what, like you said, what's going on with Murray and why is he kind of having this issue? It's not, I don't want to say slump. It's just he's not what we've been expecting for being
Sure,
like
sure.
in commercials. I
Yeah,
see him on
for
these New
sure.
Balance commercials. Like, this is not the superstar that's being pushed out and portrayed from what he's doing on the floor. And obviously, everybody kind of has those different echelons. And I am no professional basketball player as I sit here and I got my dinosaurs on here, so I'm big professional. So I'm just curious to see kind of how, and it's something obviously we'll touch on and keep an eye on as the NBA season kind of moves forward. It's a curious thing of what's going on with him here, and can he kind of have this change? Because I feel like we've been, not we, but the media is kind of like, maybe not because they've won uh, those
Winning definitely,
winning smooth
makes it
stuff
winning a
out. Yeah,
championship. Yeah, 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 definitely makes it so that you don't
you don't
ever have to
see those things.
apologize.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, you make a good point. There's no question that we're going to be talking about them a lot because the Nuggets this year are one of the teams that have the biggest spotlight on them, and it's because over the past couple of years they've lost key pieces. Starting with uh, with Bruce Brown and Green, and I mean, obviously Green was an aging player, but he was an aging player. I believe he's still playing. But and then now this year, they weren't able to hold on to KCP. I mean, granted, I believe they would have had to go into the second apron, and so they made a calculated decision there, considering how much he got shut down in that series against Minnesota. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. If you're gonna if you're gonna lose pieces to cost that work for you and have helped you win a ring, and replace them with guys who in particular Westbrook, who I mean, there's a reason he's been in a handful of teams over the past few seasons. There's a reason this guy got bought out and signed a minimum with the Nuggets. Um, I would take caution into saying that maybe he should start, because the fit on that starting lineup would be much, much worse. They're already a bad three-point shooting team overall. It's hard to think about that way because you think of a lot of individual guys and like, oh yeah, he could shoot, he could shoot, he could shoot. But yeah, they rank every single year one of the lowest in three-point shooting attempts. Um, and so I think keeping that dynamic in play is important. And then it does it does sort of make you think, well, maybe when Murray is playing those staggering those minutes with Jokic to maintain scoring, that Westbrook actually will be perhaps a good fit. I mean, maybe not. It's a smaller backcourt, maybe not the best defensively, but it's guard that sort of functions similar to the way Jokic does, perhaps less patient and more mistake prone. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be that engine as we talked about, that distributor. He's going to hopefully make other guys better, and then so Murray won't have as many on-ball duties, which not that he can't take that load necessarily, but it's not his forte. Um, Again, why was he playing such limited minutes in this Olympics? Why wasn't he playing as much with SGA as we would have liked? Maybe that was a calculated decision by the coaching staff there. Maybe there's an injury, as we mentioned, that we just don't know a lot about. Maybe they felt that their team should carry more of a defensive identity, and they were favoring guys to put around SGA, with him as the primary source, the gravity, if you will, of this offense, and they just didn't want to distract from that. But yeah, definitely going to go down as a disappointing performance from Murray overall this Olympics.
Here's a random question that just popped in my head, because to me it doesn't matter who starts. It's who's playing in the last 8 minutes of the game when it's close. Who's a better defender?
It depends. If you would have asked me like 4 years ago, I would have said Murray. But lately, Westbrook has definitely changed his identity a bit, in a good way.
Just yeah, I'm just curious because I feel like, are they going to have both of them on the floor at the end of the game? Like who else isn't going to be on the floor? I think it provides options, but again, we were saying that with the Canadian team, and it just for some reason it just didn't gel. So I'm curious. Like that's the thing too. It's who's playing those last games. Does Westbrook still have enough juice in the tank to be a decent defender at the end of the game to kind of get those minutes? Because I think that's going to be the key to this. Is you got to play defense in order to get on the floor in the fourth quarter, and otherwise you're just getting subbed off for offensive defensive possessions, and that's kind of that's a waste. Like that's.
And he's shown us that he could be a good on-ball defender, especially in playoff situations. Now, can he carry that through a whole series?
That's a whole season.
Yeah, well, yeah, season and or series. Yeah, that has yet to be proven. He we shall see. I think if you keep his minutes in like the 20 to 30 range, then you're gonna get more of those high energy moments from him. He won't feel like he has to conserve it all. And then that's how you're gonna maximize the most out of him, because he'll bring some of a scoring punch, but you don't expect him to. You expect him to get more points in the paint, maybe some easy jumpers here and there when he's open, but you expect him to be a low percentage offensive player. Overall, if he can do everything else well and keep that turnover ratio down, then I think overall he can be a net positive. But that, who knows? Maybe a couple months from now, we're gonna. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna be. Yeah, a couple months from now, we could be talking about how disastrous of a pickup as it was, and it went exactly as we expected. And going back to France Canada though, if you had told me going into this game that Wembanyama was going to score 7 points and the French team was going to lead the entire game and win, I would have called you crazy. And ultimately
he had a
for
great
Canada,
game.
Yes, he definitely did a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in the box score.
Well, even like 10 rebounds, 3 or 4 blocks, I think 3 steals. He loaded up that box score from that game. I was impressed, and like you said, he deferred to those other guys just because they were scoring, and I think he took a couple shots from deep. But yeah, to me, he wasn't needed to be the offensive guy, and that's a good thing for France, I think.
All the times that you see him smacking the ball off the rim after it bounces, because you're allowed to do that in this competition.
Those don't show
that's
up.
something. Yeah, those don't show up. If he doesn't get the rebound, those don't show up, and those are huge, because those are second chance balls that the other team could get, that he's sort of controlling. So
you're taking opportunities from the other team.
Yeah, I mean Canada, they're gonna continue to disappoint. If RJ Barrett's going to be your second best guy, these are the kind of exits that we can expect from them. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah.
As much as we talk about they're loaded with NBA players, well, if you're not maximizing the talent on that team, then you're going to see it actually now retrospectively it's easy to say it shouldn't surprise us this much that this upset occurred. But yeah,
And then
I'm
that
excited
leaves
to see
us
them.
with the last game, USA Brazil. We both talked
So much
beforehand.
to talk about there. So much to talk about.
We
I'm gonna I'm
both
gonna be I'm gonna be mobile, guys. Don't mind me. My audio shouldn't change, but I'm gonna be mobile here.
That's fine. Yeah. So US, we both mentioned beforehand. We didn't take notes on this game. We just sat and enjoyed. It was
Hmm.
what we expected, kind of a stomping. USA wins 122-87, led by, I think, let's see, Devin Booker was the leading scorer with 18. Edwards had 17. Davis 13. Embiid had 14. I think he went 3 for 3 from three. Yeah. So Embiid was your top 3-point shooter. Him and Edwards both hit 3. Oh no, Booker hit 5. Never mind, 5 for 7 from 3. So yeah, USA just was super dominant. There was zero question. There was no hot start to Brazil like the other games. USA got out fast. Brazil was led by Bruno. Oh man, Cabacho with 30 points.
I'm gonna leave all the names to you. We have a few to go back and correct still, but I kind of let those slide. I'm excited for the
Jorginho.
listeners to give you the corrections
Oh, that's
on the
fine. My
comments here.
wife would probably be
There've
the
been
first
some
one in
there have been
line.
some great ones.
Jorginho, that's one I know because that's a former Chelsea player. He had 15. He hit some big shots, not big shots. He hit some shots that I remember seeing.
Yeah, it sounds like. I mean, don't get me wrong. Brazil did come back to. I mean, they cut the lead down to 10 at one point in the first half, and
Yep.
that was probably the best run that you saw from them because otherwise it was 20 plus of a discrepancy throughout the rest of the game. I mean, credit to Brazil. They had a tough game. I forgot who they had to play at home to qualify. Was it Latvia? Gosh, who did they have to play to
Yeah.
qualify for the Olympics?
It was
But yeah,
Lithuania, I think.
wow, yeah. So yeah, that was a huge win for them. Shout out to Brazil for coming out in this tournament. I mean, certainly a tough break to make it through all the way to the quarterfinal and then have to match up with the U.S. But yeah, I mean, this game went, as you said, about as expected. Probably our biggest takeaway is that Durant is now officially the all-time U.S. basketball between men and women leading scorer. He passed Lisa Leslie. He was only about 6 points behind passing her, I believe. And he's certainly hoping to match her and become the first men's U.S. basketball athlete to win 4 gold medals. So that's the only thing Leslie's beating him at right now. But
I was gonna
I
say
shouldn't say that.
unless I misheard, but I swore they said that this is Diana Taurasi's 6th Olympics. So I
Is it
don't,
really?
and
That's
they've won
nuts.
8 straight since '92. So if she's
Forgive
got,
forgive me that I Yeah, yeah. Forgive me that I don't know that. I mean, speaking specifically for Durant here, but he would be the men's most he'd be the only men's U.S. Olympic basketball player to have 4 gold medals if we do in fact win gold this year.
LeBron
So
wouldn't.
shout out to the what's that?
LeBron wouldn't. I
I,
thought I
I,
saw
I
Greg.
think he'd be one shy. I think he'd be one shy. Um, so shout out to the women's team then for gosh, what a dominant run.
Yeah,
We got nothing
58,
on them.
57 straight Olympic games they've won.
We got nothing on them.
Mm-mm.
They're basically the dream team from the '90s right now. They're living out the glory days still.
Oh, it's still the same. Okay, this will be LeBron's. He's won 3 medals. He had that bronze one, so he's
Oh,
won 3
Bron, yeah,
gold.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
So he'll have 4 medals, but I think KD didn't. He was.
Yeah, but this was
Yeah,
Katie's
I don't
going
think.
for his 4th gold, which would be the first time in men's U.S. Olympic history.
Yeah. So that's the wrap on that. So we've got Serbia, US, and then France, Germany on Thursday. I think the early game is France, Germany. I think at like 10:30 Central Time, and then the US Serbian game is at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So we will try. We'll see. I'll be at VCon, so I don't know if we'll get a post semifinal video, but we'll definitely give you a post final video. So yeah, I want to ask you, Bobby, do you want to do trivia or do we want to do our discussion that we had talked about before? Which one were you thinking are in your mind as far as the top 3 or your trivia? What are you feeling? I'll leave it up to you and then we can go from there.
I say, you know what? Let's bust out our read here and just knock out a trivia question real quick. It's a fast one. It's a fun one. It's an easy one, hopefully for the listeners. Um, let's see. Let's pull up our read from
I got it. Well, this is
last
trivia brought to you by T4 Medical. Physician Service Reimagined. Our experienced medical professionals, like the one on your screen, put your residents' needs first. We are proud to provide a high quality level of holistic customer service, medical experience, and a commitment to health and wellness for all of our patients. By providing on site care as well as utilizing an on call service, our team of providers can deliver proactive, evidence based care 24 hours a day. Our goal is to treat your residents' physical and mental well-being with the highest level of professionalism as quickly as possible, all while reducing your re-hospitalizations. Head to t4medical.org for more information. That's t4medical.org. So let's see what you got
as
for
you
me, Bobby.
yeah, as you were saying, as you were alluding to my profession, I just thought a lot of people in their car driving say, "Don't quit your day job." But let's see. Hold on, let me get it pulled up for you here. All right, so there are 3 current MVP winners who are playing slash have played in this Olympics, NBA MVP winners, who are internationally born players. How many, we'll name them here shortly, but how many international players have won an MVP award in the NBA? Name them, and the bonus would be what's the cumulative total of NBA awards, NBA MVP awards that those players have won?
Well, Jokic with 3, Giannis with
Hmm.
1.
He has 2.
Okay.
He won, yeah, he won back to back. So you've named 2 of the players and 5 of the total awards.
What teams are there? Have they already been eliminated?
No.
Oh,
It's tricky.
Embiid.
I was gonna say
Embiid,
it's
you
tricky
tricked me.
because they're not playing. They're not playing for a team outside the U.S. But yeah, Embiid. That's another one. So that's you've got 3 of the players. We don't know how many players have. We haven't said the total number of players. So 3 of the players and
Oh,
4
you
of the
said
award
3.
winners.
That's
5
why
of
I
the
wrote.
awards rather.
Your first one was
Yeah,
3.
sorry. So
And
there's 3 current, and then but how many international players
oh, in total,
have in total have won an MVP award in the NBA?
Dirk.
And then okay, yeah, that's number 4.
Dirk has got 1.
Obviously, obviously these are going to be all fairly recent players. You don't have to reach too far. These are all
Yeah.
players that have played um, since you've been watching basketball.
Steve Nash.
That's another one. That's 2 more awards there. You're missing 2 guys.
Olajuwon.
There you go. He was the first one. That's number 6. Another one you might not think of as an international player. I'll give you a
Kobe.
hint. No, well, that's a good guess, but and I understand it, and I understand the jump that you made there.
Born in
But
France, so
yeah, and his dad played in Italy, right?
yeah.
But no. This gentleman, he's retired. Most certainly going to be an MVP. I'm sorry, most certainly going to be.
Hall
He's
of
a
Fame.
Hall of Famer. Five NBA championships. Five NBA championships. The first of which was won in 1999.
Why am I drawing a blank on this? Five. In my head, I'm thinking like Spurs. Is he
Yep, you're there. You're there.
not Manu?
Well, no, he never won an MVP award.
Oh, Tim Duncan. Jeez.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, he
Virgin
grew up in
Islands.
the Virgin Islands. That's right. So there are your seven NBA players, international players who won an MVP for 11 total awards.
I was hoping I wouldn't have one missed. So, or
That's
would have
good.
gotten.
No,
I was hoping I would go 6 for 6 instead of getting one wrong. But oh well.
that's
So
good.
that leads
Now,
us. To me, that's I. It's funny to think about that. Yeah, that was a good trivia. Good trivia.
thank you, sir. I
So
thought it would be relevant. Easy, but I thought it would be relevant.
yeah, no, it works with the Olympic play. It made me think. Yeah, to me, it's
It was a lot of word. It was very wordy. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time, folks.
no,
But
no, no. That once we figured it out, I think we got it. So then to end out the show, one of the things that I kind of wanted to see if you had any ideas or thoughts that we can kind of go back and forth on was, let's say the U.S. Olympic roster was 15 instead of 12. What three players, whether they turned it down or not, would you be adding into this team? And obviously, we can sit here and say, oh, yeah, well, Kawhi was on the team and Jaylen Brown was the one everybody was saying. So let's push those two aside. Aside from those
ooh,
two, what three players would you want to have on this team, or do you feel deserve to be on this team over anybody else?
hmm,
I think I've got my three, but I want to leave it up to you and kind of go.
that you're kind of putting me on the spot here because I didn't have too much time to prepare for it. Let's see. I can think of one right off the bat here. And so we're leaving Kawhi and Jaylen Brown off the list. Is that right?
We're just saying they're injured for whatever reason, because
All right.
those are the two that everybody's been kind of talking about. Those would be two easy answers, and then you'd only have to pick one. And I want to make it hard for you on the spot.
On the spot. All right, here we go. I'm gonna say Jalen Brunson, and I do apologize. Feel free to correct me if I name somebody who was not American born and wouldn't
Same
qualify
with
for
me.
this.
I'm not. We'll leave the
Um,
viewers can leave it up to that.
Perfect. Um, I'm going Paul George, and lastly, who who would be my final choice here?
I was
You know
in my
what?
head.
Let's give it up for Donovan Mitchell.
Ooh, okay, yeah, I didn't.
That,
Those are
that's my
good.
three. I know it's pretty guard heavy, but
I was similar. I
like I
couldn't
said,
think of any big men that I wanted to put in. It's like Cat, like no thanks. Even though he's a Timberwolf, I don't see him as an Olympian. I agree with you on
I mean
Brunson.
that's debatable. That's debatable. You know, I mean there's some. I mean we can shoot. I know your thoughts on Harden, but you can even throw Harden on that list. I mean, at least for his seniority and NBA accolades.
I guess my three. I agree with you on Brunson, and I might get some. I don't know his level. If it was maybe a year ago, I'd say it, but Jimmy Butler and Dame would be my
Ooh, there we go. There we
I
go.
just
You know what? You know what? I'm almost sad that I left them out. I'm a little disappointed. You know what though? I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to my guns.
yeah,
But
I
PG
just
over Jimmy though. That is a tough one. That
yeah,
feels like
I
a tough
can't
one.
pick playoff P.
I do think PG might be better
We
for the
got to
Olympic
angle that.
stage though.
Get that light out of your face. There you go.
I'm so sorry, mate. I'm getting a lot of background noise, as you guys can hear, and
We'll wrap up. I've got a child that I've left in front of the TV, so we're all right. But yeah,
great parenting here.
yeah. But no, I think I want guys that are gonna want they're killers, and to me, those three, Brunson, Butler, and Dame, all want to kill you on the court, and that's what I would want to add to this team. Not saying that we don't already have assassins that are on the court, but maybe I would even probably pull some current players off and put maybe a couple of them in. But like I said, I think probably Dame and Jimmy probably turned down the opportunity, as I'm sure there were people that were asked that just said no. Yeah, I think having those type of players would probably not that the U.S. team needs it, but I think that would be curious. But in my head too, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to kind of do something similar to the way that the Olympic soccer does and have like a U23 team that goes to the Olympics of NBA players, which would be led by like Anthony Edwards. And so to me, like that would be a fun team to watch. Grant, I think wasn't that what the FIBA team was last year was U23? Because I don't think these guys, LeBron and Steph, weren't playing with them.
That wasn't the rule. That wasn't the rule, but that's essentially what happened organically.
Yeah.
Um, you know, a lot of these older guys obviously are not looking to uh, extend their seasons super long, especially the ones who have been making deep playoff run after deep playoff run. So I think it gave an opportunity for a lot of the more up and coming players um, to have that experience and showcase their talents. I know it's a great learning experience, even if it's not quite NBA basketball. Obviously, there's a lot to be gained. And guess what? It's not our stage, and it's not easy. We took fourth place in that in FIBA last summer, so we didn't even medal. So I mean, obviously,
To me, it would just be not saying that this isn't fun to watch, but I think unilaterally across the world, if everybody was kind of put at that threshold, it would be a really exciting tournament, I think. And it would be anybody's tournament. It wouldn't be a US dominant tournament, which I think would make it really exciting to watch. And it would give us a lot of new names, which I think people kind of crave and want. Everybody wants to know what's next, who's next, what's next. And I think that would kind of give a preview as to who's the up and comers, which we got to see last year with Edwards. So to me, that would be something
when
fun.
we finally get instated as the NBA commissioners, we're going to make it happen for you folks.
Yep. Or the Olympic.
But anyway,
we'll be the next Grant Hill, the USA basketball presidents.
But anyway, I have to copy you, and as you can hear, got to be on dad duty here. So
that's right. We're right at our usual 70-minute mark. We will see you guys next time. We hope you guys enjoy Bucket Bros. Let us know all your feedback, comments, questions, criticism. We want to hear it all. And we want to thank you for watching and listening if you're out there on the audio podcast. But yeah, we love basketball, and we hope you do too.
Thank you much, folks. Thank you much. Coming at you with plenty of hitting you with a crossover, fade away, and hopefully a lot of good talk about the medal round coming up. Take care.
Sounds good. This has been the Bucket Bros.